Hi everyone, Kate here with another book buying confession. Finally, we're now mid-August and I have bought some more books. This project has it's been a complete paradigm shift in my book buying, and I honestly think I'm just going to keep doing it. I might give myself like a cheat time. There is going to be a huge library book sale next year. I think it's going to be in January or February, and it got canceled for 2 years because of COVID. Hopefully, this year it will not get canceled, and I feel like I could find some real gems there and for cheap. So I love doing this project though. I have ended up with books that I'm really happy. I haven't even read all of the books that I've gotten this year, and I've only bought 4 books. I keep reading other books. Um, so all to say that I am loving this project. And then because, I've been getting less books, it's so funny because, when I see the new release hardbacks in bookstores for like $27, I'm horrified at how expensive that is. One, I would just never be willing to buy a book I had never read that cost $27. But also, I just think the library, I could get it. I can wait in line from the library and I'm fine waiting in line for it. But I love that I'm too cheap for that. And then the 2 books that I'm about to show you, they each cost $50. So spent the birthday money on them. And yeah, I'm just very excited about these. So the first is really, really special. This was printed in the year 1896, and here it is. And I'm going to do a voiceover just so you can see it in all its glory as I flip it open. So this is by Mary Russell Mitford, and I have read and really enjoyed her book, Our Village, that I was gifted by my friend Lisa. And it is a really low-key kind of book. If you enjoy Cranford, that kind of domestic, mundane scenarios, but written in a charming and engaging way, then I think that you could enjoy Mary Russell Mitford's writing. And the reason I was particularly interested in obtaining Country Stories is that there is only a partial form of it available on Project Gutenberg. And then I saw this for sale for not that much considering the great condition that it's in. And I thought, yes, I want it. Now, I did learn more about Mary Russell Mitford this morning when I was just trying to research her some. And it's really sad that she was the only child, and I couldn't get a sense. I think her mom maybe died when she was little. Her father was a country doctor, but more significantly to her life, he had such a gambling problem. And so yes, her mother did die because she inherited her mother's fortune as a child. And he gambled that away. And she had won a lottery ticket for 20,000 pounds when she was $10, and he gambled that away. So she started taking up writing as a means to support them. She still supported him, even though he lived like that. And she did write a few plays. And then this, I think, Country Stories is a selection of sketches put all together. And then what I thought was really interesting is for those Cranford fans, towards the end, it might even be the last chapter, there's a chapter about an Aunt Deborah who seems like a really stern woman. And it made me think of Deborah from Cranford. Although this Aunt Deborah, I can't tell. She might be a bit more intense. And I just love the opening lines in this. It instantly makes me want to continue. The opening lines say, between 2 and 3 years ago, the following pithy advertisement appeared in several of the London papers. Country lodgings, apartments to let in a large farmhouse situated in a cheap and pleasant village about 40 miles from London. Little did I think, whilst admiring in the broad page of the Morning Chronicle the compendious brevity of this announcement, that the pleasant village referred to was our own dear Aberley, and that the first tenant of whose apartment should be a lady whose family I had long known, and in whose fortunes and destiny I took more than a common interest. Upton Court was a manor house of considerable extent, which had in former times been the residence of a distinguished Catholic family, but which, in the changes of property incident to our fluctuating neighborhood, was now fallen from its high estate, and degraded into the homestead of a farm so small that the tenant, a yeoman of the poorest class, was fain to eke out his rent by entering into an agreement with a speculating Belford upholsterer, and letting off a part of the fine old mansion in the shape of furnished lodgings. Nothing could be finer than the situation of Upton, placed on the summit of a steep acclivity, looking over a rich and fertile valley to a range of woody hills. Nothing more beautiful than the approach from Belford, the road leaning across a common between a double row of noble oaks, the ground on one side sinking with the abruptness of a north country burn, whilst a clear spring, bursting from the hillside, made its way to the bottom, between patches of shaggy underwood and a grove of smaller trees. A vine-covered cottage just peeping between the foliage, and the picturesque outline of the court, with its old-fashioned porch, its long windows, and its tall clustered chimneys towering in the distance. It was the prettiest prospect in all Aberley. And isn't her writing style just delightful? I really find it so engaging and charming. Now, what made me really sad is that Mary Russell Mitford, she only outlived her father by 10 years. So she was busy supporting him with her writing career. And I was surprised to learn that Virginia Woolf actually makes a reference to Mary Russell Mitford in A Room of One's Own. She makes a reference to Elizabeth Gaskell, George Eliot, and Mary Russell Mitford. Now, Mary Russell Mitford only has one book that was published in the Victorian era, and it is Country Stories, which was published in 1837. So it only just makes the cut. But I thought, oh, I really would love an excuse to read her, and this falls in, under the Victober umbrella. So yes, this is on my most definite TBR. I'm very excited to read this. So yeah, I was so excited to show this to everyone. So I was happy to be able to film this only a day after getting it. And I just love the gold foiling. I wasn't sure when I ordered it if it would have the gold foiling. I almost thought, well, does it just look gold? And I'm hoping it does. And, it'll come and it'll be white. And I also did not realize it was a naked hardback, which I love because what dust jacket would have survived from, 1896. So it's just in beautiful condition. And I really appreciate the bookseller sent it wrapped in bubble wrap, and he put a fragile sticker on the box. And so I really appreciated that he took such care with sending it. So yes, this is my first one I was going to show you about. So that's book number 5 for the year. And then one that I'm so excited about. So I have always wanted kind of a morning devotional that was like the Book of Common Prayer, but a bit more user-friendly. I have tried with the Book of Common Prayer, but I feel like I would have to take a course on how to read through the Book of Common Prayer in the morning. And this ends up, I think it's just an upgrade from the Book of Common Prayer. So I found this, the church that we go to is associated, the Lutheran church that we go to, the publishing house that they use a lot of their things is called Concordia Publishing House. So I did a lot of research because they have several prayer books, but this is like the Book of Common Prayer plus devotionals with it for each morning. So here it is. It's beautiful. The Treasury of Daily Prayer. You can see the spine there. And I'll also do a flip through for you of this because you just want to see it. The pages are definitely like Bible pages. And what I really like about this, like I said, it's like a combined, the Book of Common Prayer. So it's organized in the flow of the church year. It starts with the time of Easter. And you have then you have a Old Testament reading, a New Testament reading, writing about the New Testament passage typically. And then you will have a passage of a hymn, and usually, typically, I've only had this a few days, but I have been looking up, listening to the hymn that they quote, because a lot of these are, hymns that I wouldn't necessarily know about. And so that's been really lovely just to hear these hymns that I wouldn't necessarily know about. And then a prayer to end the day. And then in the time of Lent, they also have Lenten catechesis. So from the large catechism that they use. And so that's a great way to kind of be more well-versed in that. And then they give you a suggested reading from the Book of Concord. I have not gotten around to looking at the Book of Concord. I might at some point in the future, though. And so, like I said, it's organized by the church year. And so I'm starting in the time of the church or ordinary time, depending on kind of what your background is. And I am absolutely loving it. So I'm going to flip through just a couple pages here and tell you who the writing is by. So Martin Luther is obviously going to be someone who they'll use writing from. Bonaventure, this says. Some of the writings are going to be from the Book of Concord itself. Cyprian of Carthage. I definitely have not read anything from Cyprian of Carthage. So I love that they have church fathers, and then they have Martin Luther, and then they also have things from the Book of Concord. Benedict of Nursia. Bernard of Clairvaux, which I have read a bit of Bernard of Clairvaux, so I was really glad that some of his writing was in there. I would want to be reading more by him. And then you have a section in the middle that is the Treasury of daily prayer for each time of day. So they have matins, vespers, morning prayer, and evening prayer. And then also they have it set up for kind of family worship if you're going to do it together in the evening. So the more responsive readings, which is really nice. And the litany. So it's really set up so nicely. So in that middle section are included seasonal invitatories, antiphons, and responsories. And they also include, sprinkled throughout, your daily reading, feasts, festivals, and commemorations. So on January 18th, it says, the Confession of St. Peter. They're going to have some writing towards the end of it, at the very end of it, actually, about St. Peter. And then also, I love that at the end, they have sections of prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings. The Treasury of daily prayer in the middle is what you're going to find in the Lutheran service book. And so, it's going to be just like a corporate worship service. So then I appreciate that the prayers at the end feel more like a personal prayer that you're praying on your own. And they also include a litany. And then they have, just as the Book of Common Prayer would include, they have prayers for a whole abundance of things that you might want to be praying for. And then they have, they do include the Psalms at the end and divide it up for chanting if you're going to do that. I don't know how many of you at your church, if you do attend a church, that do chanting for Psalms, but that has been my favorite thing about now being part of more liturgical service is when we chant the Psalms. I think it is so beautiful. And I feel like in today's culture, you're like chanting. What is that? Are you part of a cult? Like, it just sounds weird. But if you look up, Psalms chanted, search a specific Psalm that you like, it's so beautiful. And then I love to, also they have a prayer for before Holy Communion and a prayer for after Holy Communion. I am over the moon to have this. I've used it now for, I think, 4 mornings, and it has been so lovely. I think they said that, because there's a whole introduction and, explaining everything that you'll be reading, and how it's organized and laid out. And I think each year, if you read it for the year, you will have read the entire New Testament. You have only read a third of the Old Testament. And, of course, they say this isn't a replacement to Bible reading. We still encourage that, but you do get a good chunk of it read. So I might not stick with this every year, but for now, I'm really excited to have this because I love how kind of grounded into the church year it will make me feel. And I was already looking ahead to the Advent readings. And what's interesting is Revelation is the New Testament book that you'll be reading through because it is at the end of the year. I guess you just start at the New Testament. And the Old Testament reading will be Isaiah. And I thought, how cool, Isaiah for Advent. I wouldn't have necessarily thought to do that. Maybe I'm just slow on the uptake, but I'm really excited to be reading Isaiah at Advent. So I hope that you enjoyed getting to see these 2 books that I wouldn't have been able to purchase these a year ago because I kind of just bought more books and so would have less book money to go around. And I'm really, really happy with these. I was very excited to show you them. So thank you as always for watching, and I will be back with another video soon. Bye.